So my sharing this morning will be based on the book of Esther, and this probably by the time the book was written, she was a teenager, Esther, and we'll be focusing on her, Esther, and her uncle Mordecai. And to say the background is that they were taken to exile after the fall of Jerusalem under King Nebuchadnezzar. But the context of the writing of the Bible, they were now under the King Ahasuerus, which is, I don't want to use the other name. I will use the Hebrew name, King Ahasuerus. Yes, and this is now the Persian Empire, after taking over also Babylon. So the setting is that we will be starting from, we will be reading from Esther chapter 4. That is now after Queen Vashti was replaced. And I don't want to go into more details about Vashti because I want us to learn about Esther and Mordecai. Now, Esther is in the palace. She's the queen now. And the uncle Mordecai is among I think he was among the king's servants who used to sit in the king's gates. And now the setting is, as we are reading from Esther chapter 4, verse 5, okay, the beginning of Esther chapter 4 is talking of Mordecai is in the king, he used to sit in the king's gate together with other king's servants. And then we have this other favorite servant of the king who is called Haman. And there was a time there was a plot to kill the king, and Mordecai found out, and then he reported. These two officials were killed. And then now, not Mordecai, Haman was promoted. Now is the head of the other officials. And whenever he passed through where the other servants were, they were supposed to bow, like to really bow, to show that this is our Muheshimiwa. But for Mordecai, he stood his ground and say, I'm not going to bow. And even after the conviction by the other servants, he said, I'm not going to bow. And even he told them his background, that I am a Jew. So it's like now saying I'm a Jew. And even to give us a setting for this is that Mordecai is a Benjaminite. Okay, he's coming from the tribe of Benjamin. Now he is a Jew, and they is in this foreign land. So together with Esther, they are Jews, but they are not with the Jews. Now, saying that he's not going to bow down to this official, it's like now saying, we as Jews, we are not going to bow down. And that's where the trouble started for the Jews in the kingdom. And with that, then Haman now planned to kill all the Jews. And now that's the setting of chapter 4, where the letters was given out. Because now Haman was promoted, he even had the permission from the king to do whatever he wanted to do. So after Haman refusing to bow down, then Haman, deciding to kill all the Jews, it was now like terrible for all the Jews. The letters were sent to every cities, and it was even sent through it was translated to every language that was in that place. And now Mordecai is in trouble. Like he's thinking of the Jews, he's thinking of himself, that they are going to be killed. Remember, they are not in their own land. They're in foreign land. And now Mordecai is telling Esther, go to the king. Now we read from verse 5. It says, okay, let's start from verse 1. When Mordecai learned of all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. But he went only as far as the king's gate, because no one clothed in sackcloth was allowed to enter it. In every province to which the edict and the order of the king came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing. Many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's maids and eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai, she was in great distress. She sent clothes for him to put on instead of his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then now from verse 5 says, Then Esther summoned Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs assigned to attend her, and ordered him to find out what was troubling Mordecai and why. So Hathach went out to Mordecai in the open square of the city in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told him everything that had happened to him, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict for their annihilation, which had been published in Susa, to show to Esther and explain it to her. And he told him to urge her to go into the king's presence to beg for mercy and plead with him for her people. Hathach went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, All the king's officials and the people of the royal province know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that he would put to death. The only exception to this is for the king to spare his life. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer: Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this? Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: Go gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and pray and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maids will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. If I perish, I perish. Wow. Now, I would like us to see I put them into 3 steps that took Esther for her to respond properly to the message. That her people were in trouble. They are going to be killed. But now what was the position that Esther was supposed to take? The first step was like a step of reluctance. She was in a comfort zone. It can also be translated to be negligence. Because Mordecai commanded Esther to go and approach the king, to beg for the people, to beg for mercy. And what was the first response for Esther? She said, verse 11. All the king's officials and the people of the royal province know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without, like she's saying, after receiving, now that's because the other verses is telling us that there was wailing, there was fasting, there was weeping bitterly by the Jews because they know it meant death for them. But for Esther, the first response was, all the king's officials know. And imagine we were told that Mordecai used to sit in the king's gates with the other king's servants. So I'm sure Mordecai knew for sure that if you approach the king without being invited, it meant death for you. But he's telling Esther, go approach the king for us, approach the king for the Jews, so that we may have mercy and be spared this killing. But the first response, it shocked me because this is the way we normally respond also. The first response was, all the people know if you approach the king, this is what is going to happen. But I think it is just showing our response or our reactions, even because we are talking of the family, because Esther was brought up by Mordecai. Since the death of her parents, we are not told how they died, but we are told that Mordecai brought her up like his own daughter. And now he's sending her to the king. Yes, she's the queen, but you can't, it was their tradition that you can't just approach the king the way you want, unless you are invited. So Mordecai is telling her to go approach the king, and Esther is saying, everyone knows that if you approach the king without being invited, it means death. So for us, when we are talking of the family, I think many times we say, but there's nothing I can do. Everyone knows I come from this family. Everyone knows that our culture, we do this and that. So there are things that we are supposed to address in our own lives concerning family. But we are so reluctant, or rather we are negligent, because we are saying, this is the way we are used to. This is the things that we are used to do. And some of these things, they are sins. They are things that we are not supposed to be doing. I came to realize there are some other cultures that still do the, what do you call, was it called libation? The pouring of blood, yes. Appeasing the ancestors, something like that. For me, I think, okay, even for me later on is when I was learning our culture, because, okay, we are brought up with single mom after the passing on of our dad when we were young. And now my mom was born again. So, like for me, there are things that I didn't know about our culture. So I'm coming to learn later, and then people are telling me, and are you a Kalenjin? Yes, I am a typical Kalenjin, in fact. But there are things I didn't know, because my mom, she got born again and left the things of the culture and followed the way of the Lord. And now for us, there are things that we are supposed to address. It means death. It may not be the physical death, but the death, spiritual death. We are cut off from Christ. Because if we are appeasing the ancestor, those are the things that we are not supposed to be doing. But as we are learning of Esther, I'm reminded of 1 Samuel chapter 3, where it's talking of Samuel, the boy Samuel in the temple with Eli. And in the beginning of that chapter, it's saying that in those days, the visions were rare, because there were no vision, because the word of God was rare. So for me, I was asking myself, how comes he's saying the word of the Lord was rare, and we have Eli, the priest in the temple? And again, even the verse that struck me, I think it's verse 7. It's talking of when the Lord is calling Samuel, and Samuel running to Eli telling him, here I am, you called me. For 2 times, Eli didn't know that it was the Lord calling Samuel. And then the third time now is when he's perceiving, it might be the Lord calling this boy, and telling him when he calls, say, here I am, speak, Lord. But for me, what struck me there is that Samuel is just a boy. He's in the temple with who? With Eli. Eli is now old. He's a grown-up. And when the Lord called Samuel, he runs to Eli, but it took him 3 times for him to know that it is the Lord calling Samuel. And there it is saying that Samuel did know that it is the Lord calling him, because the word was not yet revealed to him. What does that mean? Until the word of the Lord was not revealed to him, he is in the temple. I think we know the story of Samuel. He is in the temple with who? With Eli. Eli has been in the temple for how long? Wow. And then the word of the Lord was not yet revealed to him? Okay, so this is a question that I'm asking myself, even when it comes to our parents and us who are preparing to be parents in future. Do you think your child is too young for you to reveal the word of the Lord to them? Even when we go back to what Mom Faith was sharing to us last Sunday. Do we say they are too young? Because I think it was just reluctance and negligence of priest Eli not to reveal the word of God to Samuel. And Samuel was given to him when he was very young. So I'm wondering, for all that time that he has been with him in the temple, what were they doing? What were they saying, by the way? Can you just imagine? Now, as a parent, yeah, if it was Kenya today, they were just talking of what is happening currently. Yes. But now it is so sad, because it is real in our lives that there are things that we are neglecting. And there are things that I think we just neglect and say they're too young. But now the question is, what is the step that we are going to take? Because if we are saying that the word of the Lord was not yet revealed to Samuel, then it means even in our lives, and even when we go back to the reluctance, the response of Esther, that we are so reluctant. Like the people outside there, even including Mordecai himself, they're in sackcloth. They are weeping. They are crying bitterly because of what was coming upon them. So for us, are we considering the things that it's going to happen to our next generation if we do not take the step? The second step, or what follows the Esther's response, is a conviction from her uncle. Project for us, is it verse 11, part 2? Yes, verse 13. He's saying, do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. I think, for if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows, for such a time as this, maybe we were in the royal position. So this is the same question to us. And even as Mordecai is convicting her, don't think that because now you're in that position, you alone will be safe. I think saying this question, or saying this statement, do not think. I think even when we are told that statement, when someone tells you, don't think that they are in another way they are telling you to think more. Don't think that if you do this, you will be safe. So it's saying in another way they are saying, think of another way. Think more on this. It's like saying, think, Esther, think. So it is a question. It is a conviction to all of us now that we are talking of families. And I think at some point in the ministry I was in, that's Timazi, there was a time that you were told to write the things that we like about our family and the things that you don't like. And now the things that you don't like, what are the steps that you're going to make sure that you are going to address them so that you don't carry on to the next generation? And there are many things that you could write, because all of us, you know the things that you like about your own home, how you were brought up, and the things that you like and the things that you don't like. And I'm sure that the things that you don't like are the same things you don't want to transfer to your children. But it is so shocking because these things that we don't like are the things that we normally run away from them. We don't want to address, and therefore we transfer to the next generation. For example, there is this game that we normally do, the one that we make, it can be 2 lines, and then a word is said from behind, and then you pass the word to the front. I don't know if it has ever happened that the first person or the last person to receive the word receive it correctly. Because if a word is said from behind and then it is passed on until the last person or the first person in the line, they will always say a very different word. And this is what will happen with our generation. That if these things that we are passing on, we pass on errors, we keep passing errors. And now the issue with the error is that it keeps expanding, or it keeps growing and growing and growing until now the other generation that will get that error, it will be too big for them. And even bringing to our context the issue of social media, internet, being on phone. I think when we think of our parents, they didn't have phones, so the issue was not too much. For us, for generation millennials, yes, millennials, not all of them are hooked in phones. But now going to Gen Zs, wow. I think every other time that I enter a matatu, I just look around and see. Almost everyone is on their phone. And not like on a phone call. They're just scrolling down and up. You see other ones are in Facebook, TikTok. And I'm wondering, if this person, they're in a matatu, they are on their phones, What about the time when they are home alone? How many hours are they spending in phones? And so now these things, this issue of social media, I want us to just think about the next generation. If you're raising up a child and then the two parents, they are always on phone, what do you think the child will grow up to be? There was a movie. It was a school teacher, yes, with the small kids. And then I think she asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the small child said, I would like to be a phone. A phone? And then the question was, why? Because my parents are always on phone. So they don't have like she wanted attention. So for me to get the attention, see, I be a phone. These are things to consider. So Mordecai is telling Esther that don't think that you are safe. So when we talk of the family, and then we are saying these things, it's not a must for me to address these issues. But the thing is, if I don't address, then it means I'm going to pass on to my own children. When we think of Abraham, when God was promising him blessings, it was not for him alone. It was for him and then the generations after him. He was blessed to be a blessing to generation. So it is the same to us. Even as I talk to the influencers, that don't think that the things that we are learning or the things that we are saying about family, it will end on you or on you yourself alone. It will transfer to your children. So consider the things that you would like to pass on to your children. And with the same, in that note, Donovan Graham, in his book Teaching Redemptively, he says that there are two beliefs. There are professed beliefs and there are controlling beliefs. And the difference is, professed beliefs are the one that I say I believe. Yes, I believe we are all created in the image of God. And then there's controlling beliefs. There are those things that you don't say, but the way you act we see, and we know that you believe in these things. So when we talk of family, or when we talk of the next generation, what are the things that we say we do believe, and what are the things that we really see, those who are outside, what are the things that we really see, or that are the things that we really get from you, that these are indeed the things that you believe or you live for? For example, I think many a times when we find things, is it the traditions that they are said, we don't do this. We are not quick to ask why. We just say, oh yes, we don't do this. For example, I used to hear that we don't sweep the house in the evening, at night. So for me, I knew, oh yeah, we don't sweep the house at night. But I didn't ask why. And then one day, I think I was reading a book, and then it says, the people of, what do we call, the Wahenga, they say that word because in the night you don't see clearly, so you may sweep and throw away something valuable. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was the only reason for not sweeping the house at night. So you see, the things that we hear now, that's something. It can be funny, but now what are the other things that we get from our culture that we don't question them and we keep passing on to other people? And mind you, these things shape our worldviews. For example, wangapi walisikia when you see, do you call an all? Karibu na wewe. Karibu na kwako. What did that mean for you? Bad news, bad omen. Yes, exactly. But why? It's a beautiful God's creation. Why was that said? You'll go back and ask that. Because for me, at least for me now, I can enjoy, I can say, oh wow, this is a beautiful creation. I can't see bad omen anymore because it was addressed. But before it was addressed, and now to finish on that part of conviction, that being convicted, that don't think that you yourself, you will be safe. Think of your family. Deliverance will come from somewhere for the Jews, but you and your family will perish. Going back to Eli, do we all know how his sons died? Did they die? Did they die well? Why? And the father was a priest. So you see, even the negligence, it was not only with Samuel, even with his sons. Something was missing somewhere. And these are the things that will happen to us. Because even John Maxwell said that discipleship is more caught than taught. You can teach your children, but you'll only produce who you are. Because they will see, they will take what you are more than what you say. Because if you say if we preach that we don't take wine, we take water, but they will see me taking wine. That's exactly what they will do. So when we are talking of being convicted, I hope we will be convicted. So that when I think of myself, the things that I need to address from my family, from my background, from my culture, then I will take my position to address them. And even in the first place, do I even know those things? Because we are talking of professed beliefs and controlling beliefs. There are things that I do unconsciously because I'm used to. I'm shaped that way because of how I was brought up. But am I willing to ask God to help me? To think more, like Esther is told, think Esther. Don't think that your family will be safe. So for me, with those things, will my family be safe if I don't address those things? If I don't take my position and stand for what is right, like for Mordecai, he knew exactly that if I don't bow, and that's what happened. That because of one person, all the people now, they are in trouble. So it means even for us, if I don't address things, imagine the generation after me, they will also struggle even more. This reminds me of Joshua. What happened after the death of Joshua? The Bible records that a generation that didn't know the Lord. Wow. After the generation of Moses, the generation of Joshua, and all those things that the Lord did with them, it's a generation that did know the Lord. There arose a generation that did know the Lord. May this not be said of us, that a generation after us will rise that don't know the Lord. And this happens because of our negligence. And if we are not convicted today to deal with the things that we are supposed to deal with right now, may the Lord really help us. So that when we are thinking of the next generation, and imagine we'll be all accountable of the generation that we are raising. So when we sing mataifa yote yatakusanyika, taifa lako litasema nini? Will they be praising the Lord because of the way you led them into praising the Lord and living for the Lord? What will the next generation pick from you? And the last step, I think it should be verse 15. Verse 16. Yes, verse 16. Which says, go gather together all the Jews. And now when they are talking of, when Esther is sending now, I think this is a second reply or response that go gather together all the people in Susa. The Jews, all the Jews. What were they to do? They were supposed to fast and pray. And even herself with the maids that were with her, they were also going to take a step of fasting and praying. So I think here there is a shift. After being told by Mordecai to think and think again. And now we are told that Mordecai raised Esther as like his own child. So it means he had a voice over her life. She could hear what Mordecai would say because for her it was like the parent. So my question to the parent today is, are you there for your children? That's the first question. The next one I will ask later. So he's saying, go gather together and pray for me. And even me with my mates, we will also pray and fast. And then I will approach the king, even though it's against the law. But if I perish, I perish. This one shows, the entire book of Esther, there is no mentioning of God. But everything that's written there, they all point to God. It's just the working of God. So I'm seeing that Esther knew the Lord. She knew that now that they are praying and fasting, who are they praying and fasting to, if not God? And now it's like in our case now taking a step of faith and saying, wow, even though I have all these things following me, I'm reminded of Jesus Christ who died for all of us. And John Piper in his book, he said, there's this book that talks of the 50 reasons why Jesus died. And there you will find many things. I think for me, when I read that book, it addressed many things. For me, I used to think, what about now my culture, like we normally call the generational patterns. But it was addressed. Because now when I'm reminded of Jesus Christ, why did he come to die, by the way, for me? There are many reasons why he came to die. So when I am thinking of the next generation, am I willing to take a risk? Am I willing to, for the sake of the generation that I'm going to raise, am I willing to take a risk? And even to pray and fast. Like even the 3 Hebrew boys, I love the version that used the word boys, the 3 Hebrew men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Not that they didn't know what awaits them for not bowing down to the idol. They knew exactly that they were going to be thrown to the fire, but see their response. They are saying, we know that we are serving a living God. We know he will save us. Even if that is where now we need to read and to read again, that even if he will not save us, even if he will not come through for us in this, I will not bow down. So for me, when we are thinking of the next generation, because now when we talk of the family, it's not only me, it's not only the family I'm coming from. What about the family that I'm going to raise? Am I willing to take a risk and to lay a solid foundation? I think when we think of Esther saying that go fast and pray, even as we pray with the mates, this one is showing that she had a relationship with the Lord. And the other time, Pastor reminded us, according to experiencing God, that God is looking for a real, personal, and practical relationship. So that when we talk of praying and fasting, we know that we are serving a living God who hears our prayers and answers our prayer. So that when I am thinking of this, of the people that I represent, that I don't want to raise a generation that doesn't know the Lord. And I don't want to say one thing and to do something else, just for the sake of the next generation. So are we willing to take a step of prayer and ask God that, in this I don't know how it is going to happen, but I just know that God is there. That as Esther is saying, I will approach the king even though that it is against the law. Sometimes we are to take a step that's against the common sense. Because the common sense was that if you approach the king without being invited, you die. The common sense was that if you don't bow down to the idol, you're going to be thrown into the fire. But if I know that I serve a living God, then it means I'm going against what is common. So that for me to be safe, like Mordecai is saying, don't think that you are safe. So for me to be safe, then I'm to think otherwise. And thinking otherwise, it means I'm turning to the Lord. And turning to the Lord, it won't make sense if I don't have a relationship with this Lord. So it means I should be laying a foundation. I think when I think of this is that me as I'm still young. Yes, I can say I'm still young. What are the things that I'm equipping myself with? Or what is the foundation that I am laying? Is it a solid foundation or is it just a foundation on a sand? So it is my question to the influencers. Are you thinking wide? Like, are you thinking of your children? Are you thinking of the generations coming after you? Or you're just thinking of you? You are on. The things that you need. Okay, there are many things happening in families currently. You hear divorce here, divorce there, broken homes, maybe a single mom or even a single dad. And I think I've met many. Okay, for me it was different because every other time I go to high school and then I talk to this girl, and every single of them that I talk to them, they will tell me I'm raised by a single mom. Wow, why? One is that the dad died. The other one is that they separated. Like all of them, the one I talk to them, and even the smaller child, I'm like, oh my God, what are you talking to me? Because every one of them that I talk to, that's the reason they are saying, or that's the thing they are saying. And now, I think for me, I was praying that may the Lord help us. And the decisions that I am making, because many have gone to LGBTQ because of the families they are coming from. Many have said, I will not get married because what if I get a husband who will beat me? What if I get a wife who will do this, who will cheat on me? But now, if we are serving the living God, even most of the people with that reasons, if they get to marry, they marry late. Because they are saying that I have no reason to marry. But if you're not called to celibacy, why stay single? Influencers. Why stay single? And because only those who are called to celibacy will have the grace to endure or to live that single life. And to finish up I'm reminded of the young missionaries like Jim Elliot, who died when they were young. And they had families. And I'm just seeing how they were dedicated in serving the Lord. And it is my encouragement to the influencers that as long as it is called today, as long as you are living, please serve the Lord. So that even as we are thinking of family, where are you going to get your spouse if not in serving the Lord? It means you're going to be yoked with someone who is not born again. So, and the Lord cannot join the two who are not in agreement. And you can't be in agreement if you are not with the Lord. Otherwise, you'll be in agreement on the other side. And we are not of them who are of the other side. We are of them that serve the Lord. So it is my encouragement this morning, or rather a challenge, that when I'm still young, what are the tools, or how am I equipping myself for the sake of the other generation? I think when we talk of getting born again, as we continue to grow, you realize that you didn't get born again for you Mukami alone. What about the generation that's coming after you? So when we think of family, like I feel like talking about family, I don't know why, but family is a good thing and marriage is a good thing. But if it is done the wrong way by those who are ahead of us, those who are already there, how are we going to make sure that my own will stand for the Lord if I don't have the Lord in my life? And if I profess to be born again and people don't see my relationship with the Lord, like it is, I do things inakuanga chini ya maji. But I believe that the little light that is in me, let it shine. Aisha, let your light shine, so that even as we talk of the family, it's not only of my family, where I come from, or where the family I will have, but also the people that come. For example, if this child is raised in a home that don't know the Lord, and you're here, you know the Lord, how are you going to make sure that this child is helped? How are you going to make sure that the light that you have, the light that, now that the Lord, I think as Mordecai is saying, for such a time as this, it is also for us. That for such a time as that, you are placed in that family. For me, it took me many years, like just to agree with the Lord, why am I in this family? And why for all the people I am the last born? Because of the things that I went through as a last born. Because I used to think, oh, so it means when I'm a last born, all the other siblings have voice over my life, like I have to do what they say. But for me, God saved me, and then in campus, I used to do ministry, high school ministry, and then when I'm at home, then I have just to be in home, to be at home, not to go anywhere because they are like, where are you going? But me, I want to serve the Lord. And I remember Mom told me one day that, si uvumilie tu umalize shule na hizi zingine ufanye. And I was like, okay, let me finish school. After campus, I joined ministry. And that again was another battle. Like joining ministry for 1 year after campus, who does that? We need you when you are done with school, look for a job, earn money, we want to see money. But for me, I told them, I'm not going to look for a job for this 1 year. I'm going to serve the Lord in this ministry. And now that Timazi Africa is not known by many people, they're like, what is that? And then again, amidst the internship, there arose the Shakahola thing. My elder brother said, you are in Shakahola. So Clara finally joined Shakahola. But, so like for me, that was it. I think I cried a lot through the internship because I was asking God. I thought they should be happy that at least our sister is serving the Lord, but now it's the other way around. They are saying she's not home. She's far away from home. We don't know what she's doing. And I was like, okay, I'll just continue serving the Lord. I won't give up. And now I finished the internship, and then I got a job in a school, also in Nairobi. And again, see, you come home. Me and I tell them, what do you want me to come and do at home when I have an opportunity to serve the Lord? And so these are the things that we are talking of when we think of family. Because if I was to listen to them and say, indeed, I'm supposed to be home and to be around home, I don't know how my life would be right now. Because when I turn and see the friends that we were together, I just say, thank you, Lord, for saving me. I don't say that I was privileged, but I just see the grace of God, because I don't know what would have been said. I don't know who would be standing here today and to speak to all of us about family. So even as we finish that, I would like us to sing the song that says, Funua neema yako familia yangu ikujue. Dinel, would you help us, please?